I bought this RX-7 back in 2007, and it definitely did not look like this. It had been in an accident, insurance deemed it totaled. It sat outside for years after, it didn't run. Nothing was easy, but it was a start, and that was enough for me back then. After I graduated high school, I convinced myself I needed a car project before college. I didn't really have a plan, I just knew I wanted it to be an RX-7. The problem was money. At the time, I couldn't find one I could afford. Eventually, I found a listing that fit my budget, but it wasn't a clean car. It had been in an accident. Insurance wrote it off. It had some body work done, and then it sat outside for years. The engine and transmission were no good, so I bought it as a rolling chassis. And that's how this whole thing started. At first, I didn't even have an engine picked out. I was just trying to find a realistic way to build the car. Growing up, I watched a lot of Formula One. Road racing was always my favorite motorsport. So my vision for this car was simple. Street legal, but built to work on a road course. Honestly, the biggest factor back then was my budget. A family friend had a shop, and he offered me a supercharged LS1 for a price I couldn't say no to. It was cheaper than the supercharger kit by itself. So that decision kind of made itself, and for the next stretch of years, I had one goal. Get the car running so I could drive it, and build from there. I finally got the car running after numerous setbacks. And in 2013, I got it tuned on the dyno for the first time. At first it felt like a big win, but it didn't take long to see a problem. The setup worked, but heat was a problem. At peak boost, the intake temps would get up over 200 degrees, and that's not something I could ignore. The supercharger kit was designed around meth injection to help keep temps down, and I get why people run it. But I wanted a simpler, more conventional way to manage intake temps. So this phase of the build was focused on making the car more consistent and reliable. I swapped in a more aggressive cam as well as added the largest water-to-air intercooler that would fit. That didn't just help make more power, it also changed how the car drove. And once heat was under control, it made it a lot easier to see what the next weak point was: fuel. The factory returnless setup wasn't something I trusted long-term with where the car was going. So this phase wasn't about making more power, it was about reliability. I switched to a proper return style system with a surge tank, dual Bosch pumps, a regulator, and new lines. I also upgraded injectors and cleaned up a lot of the engine bay while I was in there. After that, the car felt solid, like I could actually trust it. I drove it hard for years, over and over without issues. But looking back, this was also the point where I was pushing that version of the setup to its limit. In May of 2015, right after a dyno session, the car failed without warning. One of the heads dropped a valve seat, and that was it. When I tore it down, the damage was pretty bad. Piston, cylinder wall, head. I probably could have repaired it to put it back together as it was, but I didn't want to go that route. If I was going to put time and money into it, I wanted to set the foundation for a better setup. So I ordered a new engine from Golan. The idea wasn't just to get it running again, I wanted a stronger foundation, and I wanted room to grow later. While I was in there, I also upgraded to a spec dual disc clutch. When it went back on the dyno after the rebuild, I'll be honest, I was disappointed at first. The peak number wasn't what I expected. But when I looked closer, the story was different. I was making more power through the whole power band, almost everywhere. It just flatlined right at the top, and to this day, I still don't know what the restriction was. Not long after that, I took the car to an airstrip event and got it up to around 160. That was the first time I really leaned on the new setup. That whole stretch, The failure, the rebuild, and proving it was solid again reset how I looked at the car. And that version stayed together for many years. After running that version of the car for a long time, I had another problem that forced a change. During a burnout, I hit the rev limiter through the belt and it overheated almost immediately. That ended up blowing a head gasket. On its own, that wasn't the end of the world, but it made me step back and think about where the car was headed. For a long time, I had wanted this car to be turbocharged. Early on, I couldn't justify it, mostly because the supercharger setup made sense for my budget at the time, but by this point, I was running into the limits of that system. So I decided to change the direction of the car. This phase turned into a full overhaul. I bought a turbo kit from Hinson, but it wasn't designed around a turbo this big, so it took a lot of custom work to make everything fit the way I wanted. I wanted a setup that had room to grow and more flexibility in how it made power, and that's what the car is today. It's turbocharged on a Link G5, and it's tuned for pump gas and E85. It's the most flexible version of the car I've had. But I'm not going to pretend it's perfect. There are still things I'm working through on reliability, especially in the Arizona heat. That part never really ends. The difference now is I've got a setup with room to grow, and a foundation I can keep improving. If you're curious about the numbers, it made 763 horsepower on pump gas and 859 horsepower on E85. I'm happy with it, but I'm still focused on making it more consistent before I push it further. Looking back at all these versions of the car, each phase taught me something different. Some of it was learning new things, some of it was fixing problems I didn't see coming, and a lot of it was just time. None of this happened quickly. There were long stretches where progress was slow, expensive, or frustrating, and there were times the car just sat. But each version moved it a little closer to what I wanted, not in one big jump, just step by step. The setup it's in today is the best it's ever been for me, but it's not finished. There are still things I want to refine, test, and improve, and that ongoing process is really what this project has always been. Now that you've seen the full history of the car, the next videos will stay in the present. I'm going to go deeper on the current setup, the stuff I'm still working through, and the changes I make as I keep using the car. There isn't a finish line for this project, it's always evolving. That's the whole point of the channel. If you want to follow along, subscribe, and if there's a part of the car you want a closer look at, tell me in the comments.